Today, mate, is day number 7. Ransom came out here really good. He saddled well. We've been practicing our exercises that we've already taught him off camera. And I want to show you a few new exercises today before we ride him. We're going to go ahead and ride him today, but there's a couple extra things I want to show him, okay? The first one is what we call touch and rub, okay? And I did a little bit of this the first day I got up to him where I was starting to yield his forequarters off steady pressure. But remember, there's two types of pressure. There's steady pressure and driving pressure. Driving pressure has a beat or a rhythm to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's much harder for a horse to lean on driving pressure. Steady pressure is just that. It's a consistent steady pressure. I'm leaning on the saddle. It's very easy for horses to lean on something. But I want to teach them how to move away from driving pressure and steady pressure. I always teach driving pressure first as a general rule, and then teach steady pressure, yielding to steady pressure. You do a lot more steady pressure yielding when you're riding them, when you're picking up on the bit, squeezing with your legs, asking for a backup. A lot more steady pressure is when you ride. But I teach driving pressure first because it's easier to get across to the horse, okay? So the first area that we're going to start with here is I want to give him a cue to lower his head. This will make it easier for bridling in the future, worming him, clipping him, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get my thumb and index finger and I'm going to touch him right, like in between his ears here is a hard lump on most horses, a little bone. About an inch and a half behind that on either side of his mane. It doesn't have to be like rocket science that you have to have your fingers in the exact right location or it won't work. Anywhere here will roughly work, okay? But basically, I'm going to touch, press, push, dig. Touch is, I'm asking you to move off the lightest degree of pressure. If that doesn't work, I'm going to press. If that doesn't work, I'm going to push. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to dig. And then as soon as his head lowers away from my fingers, I take my hand away and then I rub him with my hand and desensitizing him. Okay, so it's touch, press, push, dig. Always start with the lightest degree of pressure. So I hang on to the side of the halter initially, just in case the horse goes to turn his head. I can pull his head back towards me. Plus, sometimes when you first start this, they'll shake their head around and I don't want to have my hand down here like this. And if he shakes his head, he might whack me in the face, okay? So, first of all, don't do this unless your horse is very comfortable if you're just rubbing in between his ears. We've done a lot of desensitizing with Ransom, haven't we? Just rubbing in between his ears, making sure he's comfortable. So, touch. Okay, he's kind of pushing on me here a little bit. There. If I feel like he's rubbing on me, I'll whack him with my hand. Touch, press, push, dig, dig. I'm digging my fingernails in, dig, dig, there. And then release and then rub it away. Touch, press, push, dig, dig, there. Release, rub it away. Touch, press, push, there, rub it away. By rubbing it away, it stops the horse from getting defensive around their head. If you just always pinch them there, they'll get a little defensive. See what he's doing right here? Okay, I want to try my best there to try to keep my hands in the same location when he's shaking his head around. I don't want him to think he got away from me by shaking his head. Touch, there, touch, press, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. He's misbehaving, hold it, hold it, hold, there, release. So I try not to release it if he just lowers his head because he's shaking it. Kind of have to make a bit of a judgment call on it. Wait, hold it, hold it. There, I like that. That was a little bit of a soften right there. Always come back and rub it. Touch, press, push, dig. I'm digging those fingernails in. There we go, good boy. Now we're just looking for a starting point, and every day he'll get lighter and he'll lower his head more too. I just want to teach him, when you feel pressure above your pole, don't do what's natural, which is natural is for the horse to raise his head and neck up, get defensive, brace against it, get a little scared. Don't do what Mother Nature says, which is pull against that pressure. See, horses are bred to lean and pull against pressure, okay? It's something that's natural for a horse. If a lion grabs a hold of his leg, he's going to pull his leg away. If he gets his head caught between two trees, he's going to pull back and try and free himself. Horses by nature are not meant to give. Genetically, they pull against things that restrict them. I'm going to bump his head towards me. There. So if he lowers his head, but I think he's just kind of doing it by shaking, I won't release to that. It's got to be an actual release where he softens and relaxes. There, like that. It was just a little bit. Take your hand away, then rub him. There we go. Oh, I like that. And eventually, you know, they'll put their nose down on the ground. Make sure that the only time I pull on that halter is if he's pulling his head away from me or shaking it, okay? But other than that, I don't really want to pull down on the halter. There we go. That's a boy. See, be careful here, but they don't whack you with the head. Don't stick your head, when they get the head down low like this, don't stick your head above their head in case they lift their head up and they'll whack you in the teeth. So see how I've kind of got my head there, away a little bit? Okay, so this is, I'm not going to ask for perfection today. I just want to get the basic concept across that when there we go. There we go. I'm not going to let him get his head too far away though. See, he wants to lower down and turn right with his head. I'm going to pull on the halter here a little bit and say, no, I want you to lower your head, but don't take your head away. There, I like that. He kind of licked his lips a little bit there. So that's just a starting point. Now I could just kind of build on this. There we go. There we go. Let him find the answer. Wait, pressure, pressure, pressure. Release it. Wait. I'm holding, holding, holding. This is not what I want. He's shaking his head around. It's not what I want. There's a little better. Not now, not now, not now. He'll have a little hissy fit about it. Not now, not now. Keep my hand there, keep my hand there. Keep my hand there. Keep my hand there. Get ready. There. That was better there. There. I'd rather just a little give like that and him not shake his head. There, that was really good. So I'll quit on that with that. Now, he wouldn't have been ready for this exercise anytime earlier because otherwise he would have been too defensive about me touching him here. Remember in the beginning, he was a little defensive about me rubbing around his ears and his eye, okay? So you don't want to start this if they're defensive with just you touching them. Okay, another little crucial area, especially with colts, is getting them to yield their hindquarters off that steady pressure. Okay, I did a little bit of it in stirrup driving. What I'm going to do is use my thumb to represent my foot. Okay, so I'm going to flex him. I'm going to press him with my thumb back behind this back cinch. And I touch him here. And if he doesn't move, I'm going to get the end of my rope and tap him. When he takes a couple of steps over, I take my left hand back up to the middle of the saddle to flex him, and I rub him with my right hand. So I'm going to flex him here. Now press him with my left thumb. If he doesn't move, I'll tap him, use a little driving pressure. Now, go back and rub him to a stop. Press him with my thumb. If he doesn't move off it, a little driving pressure. Then when I want him to stop, the cue is I rub him to a stop with my right hand. I take my left hand back up to the saddle. That's his cue to stop, is when I go from steady pressure to rubbing. There, he's moving off my thumb. Now I rub him to a stop. With this, I want to teach him to yield his hindquarters pretty good on the ground off steady pressure. That's pretty good there. That time I didn't have to tap him. That way when I get on and I put my leg back there and ask him to yield his hindquarters, he'll have a bit of an idea what to do. Okay. There, I like that. I barely touched him and he moved off it. That's it. Okay. Rub him to a stop and flex him. Anything you can teach him on the ground is going to be helpful to get him to do it under saddle. Flex first, press him with my thumb. If he doesn't get off it, tap him. You got a little stiff there on that halter, so I jerked on him a little bit there. There we go. Take it up here, a little stiff there. Rub him till he stops. His left side was originally his stiffer side. Now it's actually got to be his good side, and this right side's a little stiffer. Press with my right thumb. Doesn't move. That's it. Yield that hindquarters. Take it back up here. See here, when he starts pushing into me here, I'll give him a little hand therapy. When he starts getting pushy and ignorant with that head, whacking into me, I'll go and give him some natural encouragement. Get away from me. You let a horse push on you, it's exactly what they'll do, is they'll push on you. I'm rubbing him here till he stops moving his feet. That's better. Almost. There we go. I might flex him a few times here. So he's a lot stiffer on this side, isn't he? Press. He's not moving off it. Tap him with driving pressure. There. And he takes a couple of steps. Take my hand back up here. See, I might jerk on him a little bit today and say, you can get off this. You can get off this a little better. Put a little effort in. Put a little effort in. Put a little effort in. Bump, bump, there. Bump, bump. Get off this. Get off this. It's not so much his thumb, but he's being stiff too. It's this halter. That's better. So if I feel like one's being a little heavy and jacking with me a little bit, I'll certainly make him feel uncomfortable. There we go, good boy. Okay, press with my thumb. Move that butt. Move that butt. Move that butt. Move that butt. So, if I move that butt. If he's a little sticky here, steady pressure, I'll go back to driving pressure until I get that a little better. That's better. Move that butt when I say. Right. So when I check him around today, I'm going to start out on this bad side, this right side. Just got some stiffness here that I want to break loose. There we go. He's not too bad when his feet are still. Where he struggles is where his feet are moving. Touch. There was a couple of steps. Go back and flex him. So what I need to do on this side is actually take a couple of steps back and just go and work on yield the hindquarters stage 1 with a little bit of bend in his neck. Just get him a little bit better here. He's just a little pushy there with his head. So I'll get my elbow and wave it like that and say, get away. And he's just not quite good enough here with driving pressure. There, that's better. Now I'll flex him to a stop. So actually on this side, I'm gonna not do any more steady pressure yield in the hindquarters. I'm gonna go back to driving. Remember, driving's easier than steady. So if he's not good with driving, he's probably not gonna be good with steady either. So he needs a little bit of extra work here, and which is okay. Horses talk to you all the time, you just gotta be smart enough to read them. If he's saying, hey Clinton, I need a bit more time yielding my hindquarters on this one side, that's what I need to do. Come back and work on it. Now I'm just gonna flex him to a stop so he practices giving a little bit better here. There we go. Get off it. If I feel him lean on it, I'll turn that into driving pressure. Move that hindquarters. Move that hindquarters. That's a boy. Now flex him to a stop. And if I do this for another day or so, and then come back to steady pressure yielding on this right side, he'll probably be a lot better. So the good news about him, not being real good about that is that kind of shows you, are my horses going to do everything perfectly? No, that's why we train them. I'm going to train a horse, and then every once in a while, they're going to show me a sticky spot. They're going to show me a spot where, hey Clinton, maybe you didn't quite do your homework good enough in this previous exercise. I need a little bit more help with this. So take a couple of steps back, make that a little better, then come back to the exercise you're on. Okay, don't ever be frightened to lower your ego or pride to go back a few steps and fix something if it wasn't good enough, or it needed more help or more work. That's not the sign of a bad horseman, that's a great horseman. A great horseman says, what does my horse need and what can I help him with? Don't keep going forward when you're running into trouble, always go back. So in a couple of days, he'll be a lot better there. It's just gonna take a little bit of practice. That's better. Yield, there, yield, there. And then get him to soften to a stop. That's where he's a little stuck too, is getting him to bend and flex there. We've been working on, mate, getting our horse used to objects that move and make a noise up above his head, isn't it? Because that's the biggest thing that colts get scared of when you ride them for the first time, is seeing something moving up above their eyes, seeing something up above them. Because normally horses are taller than most things around them, so they don't get a lot of practice at seeing objects move and make a noise up above them, okay? So up to this point, we've been doing a lot of spanking the ground, haven't we? By this stage, you should be able to spank the ground with high energy around all three sides and have your horse pretty quiet about the whole thing. Good boy, he's doing great. He's not worried about it. Now that he's at this point, I want to do what we call a helicopter exercise. Okay, this is great for young horses that you want to introduce them to a rope. Okay, if you're ever going to rope off your horse or crack a whip, is just swinging this up above him. Down low, up high. I tell people, put the stick back, say at 5 o'clock, like 12 o'clock's in front of you, 6 o'clock's behind your butt, 5 o'clock's here. Go up and over, back to 5. By always going up and over, you're swinging it up like that. If you just swing it in the air like this, when your arm gets tired, it'll end up hitting their ears. So I always go up and over, that way I never have to worry about it hitting their ears. Good boy. I want to get him used to anything I can, moving, making a noise. Good boy. Okay, it's just another little check out to make sure they're comfortable. See that? He threw his head up just a little bit just then. That's it. That's a boy. Good boy. So pretty good there, not real worried. I didn't really think he'd have a problem with it, but some horses do. Again, try to get all the resistance and fear out of them on the ground where you're safe. Good boy. Lots of rubbing on their face with the stick. Good boy. Excellent. So we're constantly expanding on our desensitizing. Now I want to start doing it from different places on him. Okay, I'm going to put my hand on him and walk back towards his hindquarters and eventually be able to spank the string behind his butt. See how he's a little uncomfortable about this being back here? Okay, horses notice every small little change. So I want to make sure he's comfortable with this stick spanking behind his butt. That way if I ever reach up and touch him behind the saddle, when I'm riding him or something comes up behind him, with a bit of luck he won't really react to it. Okay, so once they get comfortable with the first 3 stages, you know, left, right and in front, then start doing it all over them, further back here. Okay. That's a boy. Retreat and rub him. That's a boy. Now I'll slowly start walking back up. A lot of horses don't like it spanked right in front of their face. Okay, retreat and rub him with it. It's what I call play the violin, just get that going across his face. Okay, try to keep my hand on him and slowly walk back to his butt and then be able to spank right behind his butt. That's a boy. I'm just checking out, hey, do you have any oh-no spots? If you're a little bit worried about him kicking you, put a little bit of bend in their head as you do it, that never hurts. Okay. See how he wants to take his head away here? I'm going to pull it back here. A little bit of resistance here, isn't there, in his face? So I'm going to stay here till he relaxes. Then I'm going to rub him with the stick and do it again. And retreat and do it again. And then slowly work my way around to the other side. So a little bit of resistance, a little bit worried back here. Just keep spanking with rhythm until I get him to stand still and relax. It's a boy. So just something else to keep expanding on. So now instead of just doing it in front of him and beside him, we're going to start expanding it to behind him, right in front of his nose, Every chance I get, I'm going to reinforce that cue of lowering his head. Good boy, I like that. I like that, licking his lips, good boy. I did a little bit of this when I first started catching him, about just kind of walking up to him, approach and retreat, okay, and getting him used to seeing a human being come up to him straight from head on, you know, acting more like a predator. And he's pretty comfortable with that now, with me just walking him. Let me back him up a little bit here. Okay, when he walks up to me like that, that's what I call a nice problem to have. It's the opposite of him being scared. Okay, now I want to start getting him. Don't let him lean on you though. If they start using you as a scratching post, knock on them. Don't scratch on me. I rub you, you don't rub me. You let them get in that habit of rubbing on you, they just get worse and worse about it until they really start whacking you with their head. So now what I'm going to do is back away from him and kind of run up to him and see if he can handle me coming up faster. There, see that little bit of fear right then? He tried to turn and go away from me. Okay, so I want to make sure that he can handle me coming up from a faster speed. Now you'll notice this is also going to be on the intermediate series as well. Okay, but I'm going to start a little bit of it here with these colts to make sure that they're not worried about me approaching them. Your domesticated colt is probably not going to have a problem with this at all. But really, by this stage of the training, there shouldn't be much difference between a wild Mustang and your backyard pet, backyard, domesticated colt. They should be starting to act the same now. In fact, right now, he's broker than most people's backyard 2-year-olds right now, okay? So there shouldn't be much difference. In the beginning, there was a lot of difference in how we had to catch them, handle them, touch them. But now there shouldn't really be much difference at all. Now, if I would run up to him and he would back up or act silly, I just keep following him and rubbing him until he stood still and relaxed. What you don't want to do is run up and then just be still when they get scared. Okay? You don't want to do that. Run up and rub them. It's not run up and back away, it's run up and rub. So he's a little bit apprehensive when I jog towards him. See that there? Took his head away. A little bit better, but still took his head away. He's got to get comfortable enough where he never takes his head away from me as I run up to him. The good thing about this is it's just approach and retreat over and over again until he's absolutely bomb-proof. Okay, good boy. So we'll just keep chipping away at this every day off camera until eventually we can run up to him from in front, from the side, all over the place. But you start in front, get that good first, then you start stepping around the side. But we'll go into a lot of detail on that on the intermediate level of the program. Good boy. You're just about ready to ride, aren't you? What I'd like to do now, mate, is have a little bit of a 7-day review about what we've taught Ransom over the last 7 days. He's come a long way from a completely wild Mustang that you couldn't get anywhere near to being ready to ride here. But I want to review all the exercises we've done just in very brief detail, because this is kind of like what I'm going to say is the bare minimum you should be able to do before you ride a colt. Now, a lot of people might say, well, Clinton, that's overkill. You can get on them on the second day, get on them on the first day, okay? And you can certainly do that. But again, the quicker you get on them without doing your homework and being thorough, the better chance of having a wreck or getting into some sort of an accident. So I'm going to go into each exercise and show you why we did it, how important it is, and how the improvement the horse has made, okay? So our first one was round penning, okay? Be able to point and move him off, okay? Very, very important with these colts to get those feet unstuck. So if I point, cluck, there we go. I want him to be able to feel confident to canter with that saddle. If you can't get him cantering around the round pen with the saddle and no rider, we're never going to be able to get him to canter around the round pen with a rider. And I'm very, very particular about making sure the first ride you get him cantering, get those feet unlocked. I'm just telling you, the stickier you let those feet get, the crankier these colts get. Get them moving out and moving forward, and it frees up their mind. I'm going to change direction, step out in front, back. There, I love that. Now if I point, cluck, If I need to help him with the stick, I can. But it's point, cluck, and then spank. That's it. But you better make sure those feet are freed up without the rider, because they're only going to get stickier as you add the rider. Step out in front. There. Move those feet. Catch his eye. Now I'm going to ask him to come in. Catch his eye. Turn away from him and walk away. Love that. When they walk up to you, that's a good sign. Remember, he's figured out that rest is in the center of the round pen. Good boy. Very good boy. This is where you rub on him. This is where you love on him a little bit and let him realize how good it is to be with you. Good boy. So that's a lot better than 7 days ago. We did a lot of this, didn't we? Desensitizing the horse to the lead rope, making sure, throw this lead rope all over his withers and back, hindquarters, neck, okay, back legs, front legs, making sure that he's not worried about it. Initially he would kick at it and get worried about it. Want to move around. So he's very good with that. I can pitch it at him and there's no problem at all, okay? Seems like a pretty basic thing, and it is, but it's very, very important. Don't underestimate how important it is to throw the lead rope at the horse. I want my horse not to be frightened of me or my tools. You want respect without fear. Okay, moving on to the next one. Stick and string. Making sure that we can spank all three sides around him. Okay. Moving around his head. He's not worried here. Beside him. With high energy or extra high. Making sure you can spank it from this side, in front and behind. Okay. Flog him with kindness. Make sure he's comfortable with this around his legs. Touching him with it. Okay. Getting him ready for his feet to be picked up here pretty soon. Move all that around him. If you can't spank the ground with high energy without your horse reacting badly or spooking or moving, he is not ready to ride. I guarantee you of that. This is a checklist. If you can't do all these exercises to at least a B+, they're not ready to ride. If you can do every exercise I'm going to show you now to a B+, okay? A+ is just absolutely perfect. A is pretty darn good and B+ is pretty good, but you know, it needs a little work here and there. They are not ready. He's only had 7 days of training. So of course he's not going to be an A+ in 7 days, but he's getting around there pretty quickly. Next one is yield the hindquarters. Stage 1, making sure that when you lean forward and tap the air, he'll pivot on his front feet, yield those hindquarters. See the bend he's got in his neck? I love that little bit of bend he's got in the halter and lead rope there. He's softening. Look at his left front foot. He's pivoting on his left front foot and the other 3 feet are going around it. And when I rub him, I want him to stop. He's a little confused here. He's still moving. Okay, keep rubbing here. Keep rubbing. Now let's say he wants to keep moving like he is, just put that energy back to good use again. Like I gave him the benefit of the doubt of rubbing to a stop, but he didn't take me up on it. So now if he takes more than 4 steps, I'm just going to go and move those hindquarters again. Just say, you know what, I really appreciate the extra effort, and if you wanted to move, why not move? You want to move again? Let's go back and move those hindquarters. Turn a negative into a positive. That's a boy. So he needs a little bit of work here, doesn't he? He was a little confused there of my body language. Active body language means move, like what I'm doing now. Passive body language when I rub him means stand still. There, that's a little bit better. So that's something that I need to work on just slightly with him. Get him a little bit better at that. Again, your horses will talk to you. You just have to be smart enough to read them. Let them tell you where they need a little more help. This is his little bit of pushy side here with his head. So I get that elbow and throw that elbow at him. There, that time was good. As soon as I rubbed him, he stopped. This side he's a little pushy and he doesn't want to bend as much with his head and neck. The other side he had a lot more bend to him. There we go. Rub him to a stop. Good boy. Got yield the hindquarters stage 2. This is where I want the horse to turn and give me 2 eyes. 1, there. And he turns and gives me those 2 eyes and I can rub him. Okay, very important exercise. Make sure that when I lean forward with more energy, he turns and faces me. Backing up. We've been working on that quite a bit over the last 7 days, just getting him to understand method number 1, tap the air. When we tap the air with the stick, he moves those feet backwards. I want him to eventually there. When I just tap the air, that's all it takes for him to move those feet. So every day I've just been chipping away at this, getting it a little bit better every day. I'm having to tap the rope a lot less and he's responding a lot better. So that's tap the air, a little bit lazy right there, so I whack the rope. Don't let him turn his head away from you. See there? Don't let him turn the head away. There we go. Excellent. So wiggle, wave, walk, get him to move out of that space. There, that's a lot better. Wiggle. I love that. When I start wiggling that rope, he's automatically, okay, starting to back up. I love that. Look at that hindquarters. Back them up. Wiggle, wave, stay out of that space. Good boy. We've got our marching method. We walk towards him and march. That's better. Little lazy here, so tap him with the stick. There, when his feet speed up, retreat. That was better. That's a boy. And the last of our backing methods was what? It's backing with steady pressure. Okay, making sure that he can yield his hindquarters and then back up off that steady pressure of the halter. Yield his hindquarters, pick up, there. This is in preparation for backing him up under saddle. He's starting to get to the point where I don't have to yield his hindquarters every time now. If he gets lazy, I can jiggle it or jerk it. There, he backed up a little faster. He's got to understand when I just barely, he's getting a little lazy here. Use the stick to wake his feet up. There, I like that lightness right there. Good boy. Get him to yield that 4/4 away from us. Yield the 4/4. Very important to be able to get a horse to pivot on their back end and move that front end 360 degrees around. That's a boy. Okay. Yield his hindquarters. Yield that 4/4 this way. This will stop him from getting dominant and pushy. Okay. And then rub him to a stop. Lunging for respect, stage 1 and 2. Point. Come on. That wasn't good enough. I want that energetic departure now. When I point, he should know, he does know, to go a lot faster. When I point, I want him to be Johnny on the spot. Yes, sir. Notice how he's trotting over the stick in the bag, not really looking at it too much. That's great. Watch how I yield his hindquarters. I'm going to refine it to where I just look at it now. There we go. Bring him up. Let's try that again. Point. That's better. Okay. Now anytime I do point, come on, he better move those feet. If he doesn't, like that, then you got a little lazy. I'm going to get after him. When I point, it means move now. I'm going to yield his hindquarters. That's a boy. That's it. I'm still pointing, that means keep going. As long as my hand's in the air, that was better. It means keep going. Yield, point. That's it, get those feet moving. Now I'm doing all of it in the round pen right now for convenience, okay, because we're going to ride him today. But I've been doing a lot of the groundwork outside with him, okay, making sure that I can control these feet outside this round pen. If you stay in the round pen too long, they'll give you a false sense of security that you really do have control of their feet. When you get them outside that fence, they drag you around and act like you never taught it to them. Point. I like that. Little mistake here. He was a little confused just then. That's all right. I don't mind if he makes a mistake because he's confused. I don't like it if he makes a mistake because he's lazy. There's a big difference. Yield. I love that when I can just look at his hindquarters, not even slide my hand down. Okay. And he gives me two eyes. Watch. I'm going to look at that hindquarters. Good boy. Okay, lunging stage 2. Getting that horse's front end to move. Step in front, bump. That time he wasn't paying attention. Let's try it again. Step, there we go. Step, step. This is about making that front end move. Making that front end. Now right there I tapped him on his nose because he was being a little bit lazy just then about moving that front end away. That's better. See how he jumped to that last quarter? There, pick that front end up and move it. Pick that front end there and move it. So he's reading this a lot better. See, the first time I stepped in front, he wasn't quite paying attention and I had to correct him. That's what I'm talking about, a B+. He understands all the concepts that we're doing with him, but he still gets a little lost every once in a while, still gets a little confused every once in a while. That's okay. But you can tell with a couple of corrections, then he says, oh, I'm sorry, I know this exercise. What was I thinking? Okay. That's the difference between a B+ and an A+. A+, they nail it every time. A, almost every time. B, sometimes they get confused, sometimes they're not listening. It's just greenness coming out in him. Now watch, I'm going to yield his hindquarters. Good boy. I love that. See, and I don't mind him coming all the way into my hula hoop now, because I can at any point get him to move out of it. Okay, if any point he's a little pushy, just get him to move those feet out of that hula hoop. Flexing's a big one. Okay, this is so important when you go to ride them. Making sure they're light enough that when you pick up, they get off that. I love that, how he's almost keeping his head bent there, kind of by himself like that. Good boy. Okay, making sure that you can flap these stirrups at a standstill. Horse is very relaxed about this. Jerk up on that back cinch. I'm going to do this up a little tighter so he's feeling it more. Okay. Slap on this belly here. Slap on his butt. Pick up his tail. Look how relaxed his tail is. When they're nervous, that tail's real tight. Jump up and down beside the saddle. Okay, whack the saddle with your hand. Okay, make sure that they're comfortable with you moving the saddle all around them. Really flap that. Try to scare them. That's it. Good boy. Jump up and down. Remember when we first started jumping, he'd throw his head up, wouldn't he? When we jump up and down, now look at the difference. See how he keeps his head down? Good boy. We'll do the sending exercise. Point. Send in between us and the fence. Yield that hindquarters. Notice now I can point most of the time and he'll yield that hindquarters. Okay, sometimes I have to use the stick. Like here, he was a little lazy in that last yield, so I'm going to correct that. When I look at that hindquarters, I want to swing away. That's it. A lot better. We'll do a little circle driving. I'm just going to rest the stick on the saddle here. He's a little close, tap him away on his neck. Yield his hindquarters, point. I love that. See how he's coming off that halter a lot better. Still not as soft as I'd like to see bending wise around me, but I can't expect everything in just 7 days. Yield, point. Yield, point. Yield, point. Good boy, he's doing great. Excellent. Okay, getting him to come up here beside us. If he goes a little fast, just pivot till his feet slow down. See, this is where he's not really trying to be bad right then. He just wasn't sure what he was supposed to do. He thought that was circle driving where he's supposed to trot. Okay, that's why I didn't really make a big deal of a correction. So get that horse comfortable about leading up beside you. If he gets a little lazy, you can point. Get your inside turns. Remember our outside turns. And go straight. Inside turns. He still needs a little bit of help with them. Making sure as soon as you turn those shoulders, he jogs up into position. Turn the shoulders, he jogs back up into position. Moves away from you. Excellent. So that's a lot better. He's not doing it at the trot just yet, but in a few days we can. The additional head shy exercises just then. See how he jumped? That's why I do this stuff. Making sure that if I move my hands quickly around him, he doesn't react badly. So he initially jumped, so now he's telling me, Clinton, you need to just do a little bit more time with this. That's all right. Let your horse tell you where he needs help. Okay? Flicking water into their face, swinging your arm back and forth. Okay, right then when I went up to rub him, he threw his head up, so I'll do it again. Whatever it was that your horse didn't like, you repeat it over and over again until they relax. Okay. Right there. Threw his head up when I did this. That's it. That was better. Usually he might initially jump at something, and then when I do it again, he completely says, what am I jumping about? I know what that is. That's very normal. That just takes time to get that out of him. Okay, he's very defensive initially around his eye here, wasn't he, with this cut on his face here. Okay, now he's getting a lot better about it. Remember standing in front of the horse, making sure that you can move one arm and the other. Okay, that's a boy. Lots of this. This is a checklist. If you can't do all this stuff to a B+, don't get on. We're not going to do this now, but we did the Jeffries method, the human curry comb, jumping all over him. The second day he didn't start out real good. He started to move around, didn't he? But he was just kind of messing with me a little bit. Once I backed him up and got in his face a little bit, then he gave up his union card pretty quick. But I've been doing that to him every day off camera, and he hasn't messed with me at all. He's been really, really good about that. Okay. Moving on to the plastic bag. Making sure that we can flap this all around him. He's comfortable with it, up and down his belly here, up and down his flank. This is a big one, whacking that saddle. Okay, rubbing his face. We just started this one with him. He's not as good with his face as what he is his body, but just with a little bit of practice, he's good. Retreat and rub him. Retreat and rub him. The plastic bag is your greatest friend in the world in starting colts, because it's going to get all that reactiveness out of them. Lots of shaking it up here. Make sure they're comfortable. Notice how this is his stiffer side, so I constantly keep putting that bend in his head, don't I? I don't want him stand there straight. I want his head bent at least 20 degrees, okay? Preferably about 45 degrees. Okay. His face on this side. So his face is the worst part of the bag. It'll just take me a couple more days and we'll have this a lot better. See, this is what he wants to do, look. See how he's turning his head away from me? This is avoidance. Make him, at the very worst, make him keep their head straight. Preferably tip towards you. A little resistance there with his face. So I'm going to keep going. There, I'm going to retreat. Now approach. That's better. And retreat. Approach. Good boy. This is a big one. Lots of slap and tap all over them. Slap them under the belly here, under their flank. Tap them under their flank. Tap them on their butt. Slap the saddle. Okay? Lots of slapping all over these colts. Slapping is something that a lot of young colts will get reactive about. Okay, especially around their belly. This is where your legs are going to be. So let's get all this out of him here around his belly. You'd be amazed that if you don't do the slapping around their belly and flank and on their saddle and on their butt, how jumpy they get. I like it when I slap their butt and it feels like a big piece of jello. Okay, I hate it when I slap them and they feel hard as a rock. When you slap their body and their flank and their belly and it feels like hard, like a hard rock, that's not a good sign. It means they're nervous and they're usually going to buck like hell, okay? When you slap them and they're like a big piece of soft jello, that's what we're looking for. Turn and go is another one we work with him. Getting him used to that rope up around his head here. He's a lot better about that. turn, then I can point, and he'll trot on out. Yield his hindquarters. It's a boy. Making sure that you can slap it against his flank here. Do a little bit of a jump rope. Make sure you can seesaw it here and he's not worried. That's it. Then turn, and then point, and then he leaves. I love it how the halter is now connected to his feet. When I point with that halter, he feels pressure behind his pole. He's connecting that to his feet. Yield his hindquarters. Good boy. Stirrup driving was a very important exercise. Making sure that he will trot around us in a circle and flap this stirrup. Make sure he's relaxed, slap the saddle. Okay, wave our hands in the air. I want to be able to throw the stirrup on his belly and pick it up, and throw it and pick it up, and have him not get jumpy or worried about that. Pull on that back cinch. Now I'm going to yield his hindquarters with my stirrup. Represents my foot. That's better. Bring that front end through. Go the other way. Really try to flap this thing. That's it. Really flap it and see if you can't make him jump. Right then he jumped initially, and then he said, what am I jumping for? It's the wrong thing to do. Whack his butt with the stirrup if he doesn't move it. That's it. Good boy. So he's pretty good with that. Picked me up off the fence. Today's his second day. Let's see what I can get done by myself. There we go. Good boy. Not bad. Okay. Let's stirrup around. Shake that saddle. Get him used to both eyes. Move his hindquarters over. See if he'll step around on this side. Move him over. Move him over. Little resistance here. Ah, that's a good boy. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, B+. Little resistance here and there, but then got the concept again. But that ain't bad for his second session, and he didn't have anybody on the ground helping him either. Okay, good boy. Yield that hindquarters. Come up here. Too far away. That's it. There we go. Not too bad there. Needs a little bit more work with that. Move your hindquarters away. Needs a little more work with that, but not bad for his second session of it. Especially you didn't have a helper. Good boy. Now remember, we did the feed whacker, beating him with the feed sack. We did all that with him. The stock whip, the dressage whip, whacking the dressage whip on the saddle. All that stuff we've been practicing. So if you can't do all that to at least a B+, you are not ready to ride the horse. The horse is not ready to ride. The other things that we're going to do is, we checked his head around yesterday to his tail, and we're going to do it again today, but I'm going to show you a couple other techniques you can do with it today as well. Once we do that to him today, I think he's ready to ride. But if you don't have your horse to where he's obviously now using what? The thinking side of his brain. He's calm, he's relaxed, he's using the thinking side of his brain. He's respectful, he can move his feet forwards, backwards, left and right. If you can't do this, I don't recommend you ride the horse. Can you ride the horse without doing all this? The answer is yes. Will you ride 100 colts without any problem? Yes. And then one colt is going to break in half and buck you off and break your neck one day. So for 18 years, I've been doing this professionally. Touch wood, I've never once been hurt professionally training horses. I've got hurt in other accidents, but not around horses. The reason is because Gordon McKinley instilled the safety in me. Do not get on these colts until they're ready. Like, I'd work with a wild horse and he'd come down to the stockyards in Australia and he'd say, Clinton, is that colt ready to ride? And I'd say, well, either yes, Gordon, he is, or no, Gordon, he needs a couple more days. And he'd say, okay, I'll see you in a couple of days. Couple of days time, I'll be back. And he'd come back, and if he's ready in 2 days, he'd ride. If I needed one more day, give me one more. He never pressured me to get on, because he knew the importance of making sure you don't get into a wreck. What is 7 days out of a horse's life? So I've had some colts in my career that were such problem horses that people had wrecked them and taught them so many bad habits, but I didn't ride them for 2 weeks. I had to spend 2 weeks on the ground just sorting out all the mess that other people had taught the horse. But then when I did ride them at the start of the 3rd week, they rode off like champions. But if I guarantee, if I would have rode them too early, they would have bucked and bolted and read and done all the stuff. But with the previous owners, to me, they would have done that to me as well. But we did our homework. So far, I think he's done really, really well. To go from a wild Mustang and 7 days later, he's almost looking like you could put your kid on him. That's what we're looking for. So now, mate, we're ready to put the hackamore back on him. Okay. Always keep that halter around their neck in case they went to take off or do something a little bit silly. You've got him there. Okay. See how he's taking that nose away from me now? I want to bend that head and get that head back towards me. Don't ever put it on with their head tipped away from you. And they'll all want to do that a little bit in the beginning. So he's much better about his ears here. So today, I want to check him around, but I want to show you a couple of other little techniques you can use in doing this. This is his 2nd day, and we're also going to ride him today as well. I want to make sure that a couple of things. Obviously, we've done a bunch of flexing, getting his head to flex from side to side. This is very important. Now see, hit that just there, how I threw that over there just then. For whatever reason, he just jumped a little bit, so go back and fix it. Anytime I see any little jump or flinch, I repeat it several times until I get rid of it. Every time they jump or flinch and you keep going on and act like it never happened, they just get worse at it. Go fix it. Horses don't train themselves, so you got to fix it for them. Okay, so we've done a lot of flexing him here. Now I want to see if we can flex him, but from the opposite side. Stay up by his shoulder here, very important. And then just bend him a little bit here. See if he'll flex from the opposite side. Now the reason why you stay up near their shoulder is that if you get too far back and they want to get stiff and spin around in a circle, if you get back near their back end, they'll run over you because their back end will step towards you. Stay up here. See how I lead his nose out to the side? And then I come back to where my hip would be in the saddle. Lead his nose out the side, then come back to his hip. Okay. Righto, I'll turn him around, give you a little bit different look. Pick up, lead his nose out the side. There we go. Now if he feels a little heavy, I am going to jerk on it just a little bit. I'm going to pick up with steady pressure. And then if he feels heavy. Okay, so this is about getting him to flex from the opposite side, because when I ride him, I'm not going to be standing beside him, so he's got to learn. See there how he wanted to flex on the side I was on just then? That's very common, is that they get a little confused. It's a boy. Pick up. And you can't exactly see when they give. As long as it feels light, throw it away. That's it. See that stiffness right there? Okay, I'm going to start off on his bad side today, which was his right side now. It used to be his left, but it's his right side now, and see if we can't get him softened up a little bit better. Now, yesterday I showed you how to tie it to their tail, and that's where I usually start doing this. A couple of places you can do it, okay, once they're good at their tail. Take it around the back of the saddle, like so. This is quite easier a lot easier to do if they want to move around. But I don't do this when I first do it because it doesn't give them any slack. Like if I pull against it, they just hit that saddle. I'm not real worried about him because he did pretty good yesterday with it. But I could do it to him today. Just getting him to follow that nose. Front end, back end. 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 Sometimes I'll hook the stirrup over the horn like that. Sometimes those colts, I have a tendency to play with that stirrup, and I've had the odd colt get it hooked in their mouth, in their bottom, under their bottom teeth there. So a lot of times when I go to the saddle, I'll flip it up over the horn there. Hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. So now I'm going to tighten it up, put a little bit more bend in him. Never hurts to tighten it back up. It's a lot easier to tighten it up if it's a little too loose than to do it too tight and get into a wreck. See, as I approach him, if he acts a little bit worried, I'll just go and move my arms around. Use that fear to get him to move his feet until he just doesn't want to do it. Pulling up to this, tying it to the back of the saddle is a little bit more simulating what it's going to be like when you ride him. Okay, because you're pulling to your hip. See there how he really pulled against that there? That's why this is going to be good for him. Get that stickiness out of him. And you can even do this. You can even put it down and then just half hitch it around the horn too. That'll work too. It's just personal preference. So let's go move him around a little bit, put a little pressure on him. Hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. Now I'm going to flap him until he stops. See this here? This is perfect. Right there. He just had a little tantrum just then. And that's exactly why I do this. Because I want him to have a little tantrum and spit the dummy out a little bit and have a little bit of a meltdown there, and do it now so that we get there. See him get off that? See, he thought it was a lot of fun pulling on that halter when it was my arm. Now when it's his own nose being pulled on, he don't think that's so funny anymore. And that's perfect what just happened there. He had a little bit of a fit just then, and he didn't win, did he? Because he pulled against himself. Now look at his eye. Look how much more calm he is now. Well, I want to get rid of that on the ground, so when I get on him and I pull on him, if he wants to pull against me, he's not going to have a little tantrum like that. Okay, that was really good what just happened just then. When I say really good, I don't want him to fight it, but I'm glad he fought it on the ground and not not while I'm riding him. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up slightly here. That's a boy. It's amazing how horses think it's a lot of fun pulling on you when they're pulling on you, but when they're pulling on themselves for a while, then they don't think that's quite as much fun. But he thought it was good old fun when it was my old arm getting pulled on. That's it, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters. I usually stay kind of beside the fence. The more you stay beside the fence, the more it drives them off the fence. If you stand out there, they kind of bump into the fence a lot more. Hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. Now I want to flap him to a stop, which is as soon as I pull that bag out, I want him to eventually just stop straight away. The bag means rest. Now I'm going to get where I'm between him and the fence because it'll help slow him down. He's thinking about having a little fit. Now right then, it was kind of interesting. He thought about having a little bit of a fit just then and pulling against that. And then right as he started, he said, you know what? I don't think that's much fun. And then he gave it up. That's good. Forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters. Because we're going to do this under saddle. Move his hindquarters, forequarters. I'm going to ride him. Somebody on the ground is going to move his butt, move his forequarters, move his butt, move his forequarters, move his butt, move his forequarters. Okay, so I want to do everything I'm going to do under saddle on the ground, so there's no surprises. Hasn't quite figured out the bag means rest yet, has he? See how he's still moving around? Eventually I want him just to stop. That's good right there. Got a little bit of a fit he had. You got to be on your toes a little bit. See, that's why, see, notice like that's why I don't get up between him and the fence. So if something like that happens, see when he had a little fit there, then I just kind of jumped back out of the road. That's why you don't want to be in here. See, I wouldn't go in here to untie him. Okay, that's a perfect example why you don't get up beside the fence. Because if something goes wrong, you've got no place to go. People might say, are you disappointed that he seems to be pulling a little bit more today than yesterday? Well, not really, because I'm putting a little bit more pressure on him today, but I'm never disappointed when I get to find a hole in my horse on the ground to where I get to fix it. I'm always disappointed if I find a hole under saddle where now I'm wishing I was on the ground and now I got a big hole. Okay. If he wants to keep moving, I'll keep moving him. Forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters. Put that energy to good use. There we go. A little quicker there about him stopping. Now I'm just going to back off and let him have a think about that. There, I like that. See him softening, licking his lips there? That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Hindquarters, forequarters. Hindquarters, forequarters. And I kind of tap them with a little bit, especially if they're kind of jumpy, to get that any little reactiveness out of them. If they're dull, I don't want to tap them because I want them to get more sensitized. See, this is my arm he's pulling on if I was riding him right now. So that's why I want to get rid of a lot of it on the ground. There, he's pulling on the hackamore. There, he just got off it. Step back, let him have a little think about it. Hindquarters, forequarters. Break each end of the horse up. Hindquarters, forequarters. And you can do this with your older horses too, that if they're kind of stiff and not as soft as you like. But again, don't cheat by just not teaching them how to flex first and doing your homework. Even when I did my homework, he still resists this a couple of times, didn't he? Especially on this one stiff side. Okay, this doesn't replace teaching the horse. This is just an added little thing. Anytime a horse can teach something to themselves, I think they learn it a lot quicker. You know, when I was working with him this morning, he was pulling on me on this right side and pushing into me with his head and just being a bit of a jerk about it, okay? Well, now that I've checked his head around, he's pulled on himself a couple of times pretty good there, didn't he? He pulled against himself and he fully expected me to drop the rope. Well, I wasn't hanging on to the rope. So that kind of was a bit of a shock to him. He was pulling on himself. There, I like that, him softening there. So now I'm just going to let him soak for about 10 minutes, come back and let him rest again. You know, come back and then we'll go the other way. So let him rest here for about 10 minutes. I like how he's kind of just given, you'll see him tuck his head in, then he'll bend, then he'll pull against it, then he'll bend. He's just, I love that, licking his lips. Okay. They got to go through a few of those little tantrums sometimes and spit the dummy out and just kind of figure out that life's not too much fun if they want to pull against themselves, okay? It's kind of like little kids when they flop over on the ground at the shopping center and want a piece of candy, and every time that mother gives them candy, they just get worse, okay? You know, let them flop all over the ground and walk off, okay? I remember one time when I was a kid, I wanted something in the shopping center and I flopped over on the ground, started squealing and whining and flopping all over the place like a dead fish, and my mother just walked off. Yeah, okay, and it took me 5 years to find her and she was mad when I did, but she didn't give me what I wanted. She just kept going about her business. Well, that's kind of what I did here. He pulled and had a little fuss about it and I just kept going about my business. And I wasn't really worried about him hurting himself. You know, it's something around their nose. He already had it to his tail. I knew he wasn't going to get any major wreck, but I wouldn't have done this on the first day. If I would have tried to do this to him the first day I put the halter on, okay, then it would have been a big wreck. It would have been a fight at that point. I'm not trying to fight with him. I'm not trying to punish him. I'm not trying to get him. I'm trying to teach him, move your feet and soften up at the same time. Now that we've checked him around one way and give him a little break, okay, we're going to go back the other way now. Now this other way, I'm going to show you a different way of doing it, okay? I like this way as well, especially after you've done it to their tail first, is it kind of works similar to what you would do if you're on a saddle, it's kind of like a bit of a pull and release system. When they give, it gives back to them. So what I'll do is rub it, okay, get him comfortable here, and then I'm going to do it and tie it to his hock here, just above his hock. Now tie it tight enough that it doesn't slip over their hock. You don't want it getting below their hock because there's too much leverage on them then. But what it does is it kind of simulates just what your arm's going to do when you ride them. You're going to pull and release. Okay, and every time they move that foot, it goes ahead and pulls, and then when they bend, it gives back to them. So it's kind of like a little bit of a pull and release system. No different than when you're riding them. Okay. Every time they pick that leg up, it pulls on it. Every time they put it down, it creates a little slack. Okay, pull and release. That's it. Again, don't go below their hock, just above their hock. If you go below their hock, it puts too much bend in them initially and they'll fight it a lot more. I don't want to get in a fight with him. All I'm trying to do is get him to learn to bend his head and neck while he moves his feet. Okay. Hind end, front end. Hind end, front end. Hind end, front end. It could be a little bit tighter, but again, I'd rather have to stop and tighten it up than do it too tight and have him fight it. Now, every time I want him to stop, I'm going to start flapping this bag, and that's going to be his cue to stop moving. Every time this bag comes out, he gets to have a little rest. There we go. When they'll stand here and let you flap the saddle and their body and up in the air, with them standing there flexed, they're getting quieter. So let me just tighten this up a little bit here. Just put a little bit more bend in him. The more you can bend a colt, the softer they get, the lighter they get, the more responsive they get. The straighter they are, the stiffer they are. There we go. That's kind of got the bend I'm looking for there. So in a second when I ride him, Shayna's going to move me around on the ground, and I'm going to be on him right now. Hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. We're going to simulate exactly the same thing. So if I can teach him what to do on the ground, he's going to have a much better idea how to do it on the saddle. Which is why we do the groundwork, to prepare us for a safe and successful ride. Now I like that a lot better. That time he stopped a lot quicker, didn't he? As soon as I started flapping, he spun around a couple more times and then he stopped. Lots of flapping on this saddle. Okay. Move these forequarters, hindquarters. Forequarters, hindquarters. Break each end of the horse up. Move that butt, move that forequarters. Move that butt, move that forequarters. Move that butt, forequarters. Now I'm going to go down and flap him again. I like that. As soon as I started flapping, he stopped. That's what I'm looking for. So he's not as stiff on this one way, is he? Now eventually you can flap their face when their head's bent around, just like that. But the other way he forwarded a little bit more, didn't he? If they're really, really kind of touchy, I just kind of let that stick run across their belly like that. I'm not worried about them kicking me. I've never had one in 18 years kicking me when their head's tied around like this. It's a little hard for them to do that and move their feet all at the same time. Okay. There, but he's not overly sensitive, which is good. Now he's thinking about pulling on this. Look what he does. See how his head's straight here? Okay, that's pulling on his nose. If he would just bend his neck, he wouldn't get pulled on. See, he'll figure this out. Watch what he does. There, good boy. See how I created some slack? See the slack from the stirrup to his hock? That's what we're looking for, but he creates his own slack. That's it. So once you do it to their tail, then you can do it to the back of the saddle or their hock, or do a little bit of both. The thing I like about their hock is it pulls and releases. It pulls and releases. It's not just a dead pull. Try to get bucked off on the ground. I love that. When I can flap their face with the bag and they stand there nice and relaxed, that's a good sign. Righto. He's good enough. It ain't going to get much better than that. Okay. Rightio, he's ready to ride. I've done as much preparation as I feel like I need to get him ready to ride. I've tried to build him up for success, not failure. So now it's just time to go ride. You can only prepare so much, and then at that point you just got to go do it. But I feel like things are going to be all right. If I'm not 99.9% sure things are going to go well, I don't ride the horse. Okay? So other than him being a little stiff on that one right side, okay, he hasn't shown me any other sign that he's not ready to ride. He's pretty quiet, he's good with the saddle, he's not wanting the buck, he's good with the stirrups, back cinch, slapping him under his belly, jumping up and down beside the saddle. Okay, he's only one negative is that he's a little stiffer on this side, but I guarantee tomorrow he's going to be a lot better, and that's what that checking him around is going to fix. Some of that little bit of stiffness there. Rightio. So I'm going to go ahead and have Shayna come in. Shayna is my professional clinician, and she travels around the country teaching the Down Under Horsemanship method. We have several Down Under Horsemanship certified clinicians that travel around the country teaching my method, and she was the first. And she's going to help me on the ground, because what we're about to do here is, to me, very unique about starting colts. And this is a method that Gordon McKinley showed me. And when he showed it to me, I didn't think that it was that special, meaning that I just thought everybody did it like this. It wasn't until I started getting out my own and starting seeing how other people start colts, but I realized that actually it was a pretty special technique. Is that when I worked for Gordon, we started over 600 horses in a 2-year period, okay? And out of those 600 horses, 1 horse bucked in the first 3 rides. And I consider the first 3 rides to be the most dangerous while working with a horse. Well, when you have 1 horse that bucks in the first 3 rides out of 600, that's pretty phenomenal odds, especially considering how wild these horses were. It's not because that we could ride bucking horses, it's because we just did a good job of preparing them. And the system that we have to ride these colts really makes a big difference, okay? And I'll kind of explain this as we go along when we bring Shayna out. One of the hardest things to do when you first get on a colt for the first time is get their feet to move, okay? Well, actually, when I say one of the hardest things, usually when you start colts, it goes to one extreme or the other. All they want to do is go, and they're hot and nervous and jumpy and spooky, and they want to buck and bolt, or they're the complete opposite. They're dull, they're lazy, they're sticky, and they don't want to move. Most of them are in that category where they don't want to move out. That's why I make such a big deal about making sure the horse will canter with the saddle on around the round pen and you get his feet moving. Okay, Ian Francis, another one of my mentors, he says, Clinton, you can't beat anybody at a standstill. Okay, you've got to be able to create forward motion if you plan on training a horse. So what Gordon's method did is he showed me that if you use a helper in the round pen with you for the first ride, actually the first 3 rides, but mainly the first ride, to basically drive you around. All I'm going to be, when I ride this horse, when I ride Ransom, I'm basically a passenger. Shayna is going to be the one in control. She's going to be the one making him go forward, turn, move his hindquarters, yield his forequarters, and I'm going to work with her as a team, but basically I'm more or less a passenger. So all Ransom has to do is get used to me. He hasn't got to get used to me. I don't have to be the gas pedal, the brake, the steering wheel, and the human riding him all at the same time. So the first ride, my helper does a lot of the work for me. The second ride, I'll still use a helper, but they do a lot less. I only use them if I get kind of stuck or I need some help. And then the third ride, we start out in the round pen and they just kind of stand still and don't do anything, unless I need help, of course. And then the second half of the third ride, I usually put them out in a big arena and get going somewhere. So we slowly wean ourselves off that helper, but the helper is very important in the beginning. Shayna's got a stick with a bag on it and a string. So if she can get the horse to go forward from the stick and string, great. Or if she needs the bag, she can use the bag. Some horses react better to the bag moving forward. Some will do the stick and string. So what I'm going to do is bring him over here towards the center. Always get on your horses in the center of the round pen. Don't ever get on them near the fence, okay? Now these reins on this hackamore are quite long, and we make them this long so that it doesn't matter what age horse you're riding or how big it is, your reins are long enough. But for most, especially him, he's probably only about 14.3, he ain't real big. They're going to be too long, so there's a chance that he might step on them, okay? So what I'll do is I'll tie a knot in the bottom of the rein. Okay, and what that does is it just shortens it up slightly, and I also like it because it creates a little bit of a weight too on the end, that if I need to bump on him or tap him, I can. Okay, so I just tie a knot in the end of it, and with him being short, I might actually have to tie 2 knots in here. We'll try that. We'll see how we get along. And I make them towards the end of the rein. Okay, so I'll do that now. Now you'll notice that the hackamores have 2 loops here on the bottom. You can connect your lead rope to it, and it doesn't hurt to do a little groundwork with your hackamore as well. Okay, you'll find that the hackamore has got a little bit more leverage or bite than the halter because it's a little bit stiffer. So if you've got a colt that's a little bit of a, he wants to pull on you and be a little stiff, this hackamore will help soften him up. Okay, radio then. So when I go to get on, Shayna's basically going to start to get his attention. She's going to kind of shake that bag a little bit and make him kind of look at her a little bit. I want half his attention on her, half on me. Now when I go to get on, I'm going to get up by his shoulder here. I'm not going to step on him from back here. In case he gets frightened or gets spooked, I don't want him to jump forward and then cow kick and kick me in the guts, okay? So always get on and off a wild horse or a horse that you're not sure about from their shoulder, okay? So what I'm going to do, I've already done lots of flapping and moving him around, okay? That's it, just flex him here. Now another little tip, make sure that your girth is tight enough and it's nice and tight. Usually I do it up 3 times before I get on, and it's nice and firm. And also make sure your stirrups are the right length for you so you don't have to get on and try to adjust them or any of that type of stuff, okay? So Shayna's going to just move over there a little bit more, Shayna. Get his attention just a little bit with that bag. I'm going to bend his head around to a 45-degree angle, and then I'm just going to kind of lean into this saddle a little bit here. Jump up and down a little bit, and then take my foot out and retreat, okay? She's got his attention there a little bit, okay? And I'm just gonna crawl up here just a little bit like this. There, and bend his head. Now notice where I step down, back up here near his shoulder. I grab some mane here. It's got a lot of it. Jump, jump, jump. There we go. And now I'm just gonna lean over him here and move the stirrup here. Shayna's still flapping the bag to keep his attention a little bit, okay? And then I'm gonna step down. By me stepping halfway on, I'm preparing him for where my leg's going to go. But we've already done a lot of preparation, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. There we go. Now I'm going to step all the way on. Now that I'm all the way on him, okay, it's very, very important that I keep his neck bent. Okay, there we go. That's a boy. So what I want to do before I go anywhere is just make sure that we can flex his head around from side to side. I want to make sure that I can bend his head. Because if I can't bend his head from side to side, I'm going to be in trouble. If he would go to rear or buck or bolt or take off, if I can't bend that head, I can't get any leverage. I can't get that hindquarters to disengage. So he's a little heavy here. So when I feel him being a little heavy there, I'll kind of bump on his nose a little bit harder here and kind of reprimand him. Initially, I'm going to kind of pull my hand out the side a little bit. Okay, it's kind of like lead it out here, and then back to my hip. And I always pull to where the seam of my jeans meets my belt. So Shane is kind of just flapping that bag just a little bit to get his attention. So if we've done plenty of flexing, this shouldn't be that big of a deal. He's not that light right now, but I think he understands kind of what I'm looking for, but he's just not real good at it right now. But that's all right, he will get better with time. See, this is the first time he's really had to flex, you know, from not having any help on the ground. There we go. So if you can't flex their head from side to side, don't even think about moving their feet. Now, again, see how he's a little stuck here? Sometimes if they get a little stuck, Shayna can shake that bag. Like what some colts will do is you'll let go of a left rein and you'll go to pick up the right one, and they'll get a little stuck where you pull on the right rein and they keep giving left. Shayna can shake that bag. Like, do it now, Shayna. Shake it harder. And then you can get that colt to turn. And when I say turn, just kind of look at her, and that gets them out of that stuck position. Like if she flaps it again now, get their attention, they'll kind of turn and look at that bag, and then you can get them back around the other way. He's not really doing that, but I'm just trying to tell you what sometimes you can do. They just get confused. Like you'll pick up on this left rein and he'll think you want him to flex right, and he'll keep trying to tuck that head in. Okay, so we've got him bending here a little bit. Okay, I'll stay here for 30 seconds to a minute, just make sure I can bend him around. Now I want to go start moving their feet. Okay, so hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. Put my leg back, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. Now stop. Now we don't go too many steps, okay? Now instead of just letting him run off and buck or bolt or do something silly, we're going to keep his head around and say, hey, listen, we're in control of this situation. Don't even think about that we can't get you to stop. Okay, so I'm going to flex him the other way, do the same thing. Move his forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters. When I move his hindquarters, see how I put my leg back? Forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. Close the door, open the door. Close the door, open the door. Close the door, open that front end. There we go. Now stop. Okay, this is why we check them around on the ground and get that bit of an idea of how to move each end of them. Do the same thing. Okay, forequarters, stay on that side now, Shannon. Forequarters, and I'm going to help a little bit using my legs. Hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters, hindquarters, forequarters. Now she's going to let him out just a little bit. Right, now catch him. Yield that hindquarters, forequarters. Let him out a little further. That's it. Now get that there, hindquarters, forequarters. And we'll just kind of wean him out into the circle. Now hindquarters, forequarters. That's it, a little bit further. Now, get his hindquarters again, hindquarters, disengage, forequarters. That's it, we'll let him out a little further. So we just kind of wean him out onto that circle. Another one, yield his hindquarters, and then forequarters. So he already knows how to listen to somebody on the ground. That's it. Okay, so I just let him trot around a little bit. Shayna keeps that bag moving. It's very, very important. Move that bag a little bit more, Shayna. Keep that bag moving. Keep his attention on her as well, okay? Now she's going to ask him to canter. She might have to let her string out. Okay. That's it. Now I've got his head ready to the left if I need to bend him around, if he went to buck or bolt. But I don't want to pull it unless something bad happens. Now let's just say he went to take off or bolt to do something silly. Shayna, step out in front, see what she does, and then I shut him down with one rein. Because he already knows when the handler steps out in front, that means two eyes. If he went to bolt or take off, she would cut him off and shut me down, and at the same time I'd bend his head. Okay, let's go off the same direction again. That's it. Okay, make him can. Yep. I might cluck, and I'm just a passenger. Okay. So my job now is just to be all over him, like a bad rash. Move all over him. Okay, slap your hand on your leg, touch him behind the back cinch. Okay, I just want to move all over this colt. The last thing you want to do on a 2-year-old or a colt is get on there like a closed pocket knife. Act like you've been drinking all day. Move all over them. The sloppier you ride and the more you slap on them, the quieter they get. The biggest mistake people make is they get real scared and they don't want to move. And that just makes that colt even tighter. Excellent. Right, over here Shayna will stop him. So Shayna will step out in front. There, and at the same time, I bend his head. So it's kind of like I'm teaching him. I just taught him a 1-rein stop then, but Shayna helped me. He's a little heavy there, so I'll bump him off it. Righto, mate, let's go the other way. Step over there. Okay, so hindquarters. She's going to let him go out a few feet. There, now hindquarters. Let him go out a little further. Now hindquarters. That's it, let him go out a little further. Now hindquarters again, put my leg back, disengage. Okay, and now we'll let him out in the circle. So we wean him out, new side, new brain, onto that circle. Keep that bag moving more aggressively there, Shayna. Okay, you want that horse's attention up higher, on you, okay? A little bit on me, but mainly on you. Okay, let's ask him to canter. I'm gonna hold on to the horn, and she gets his feet moving. Now, because we already did so much loping, that's not that big of a deal, is it? To get him to canter, because we've already got his feet moving in the round pen. That's why we did the round pen exercises. Get him comfortable loping with the saddle without the rider. Move all over these horses, okay? So I'm only going to pull that rein and bend him around if he went to buck or bolt. Now, sometimes they might just scooch forward and jump. I just kind of sit on and don't do anything then. Sometimes if you grab them too quick, you can create your own little mess by scaring them. Sometimes they'll jump and you just kind of go with them. But if you grab them and jerk on them every time they get a little tight, it just kind of builds on itself. See how he's really listening to Shayna. He's waiting for her to step in front. Okay, Shayna, step out in front. There. And at the same time, I bend his head. Okay. I'm waiting for two things to happen. For him to stop moving his feet, and there, soften. Pull him back this way, right, Shayna? We'll just let him out now. Okay. Now this time I want him to canter, but I'm going to see if I can help her a little bit. I'm going to squeeze with both legs, cluck, spank gently, help me a little bit, and then spank a little firmer. There we go. So I want to start, I see if I can be the gas pedal. I'm going to squeeze with both legs. If that doesn't work, I'm going to cluck. If that doesn't work, I'm going to spank. And Shayna's my backup. Squeeze, cluck. I'm spanking him, there we go. Squeeze, cluck. There, that time I got him to go. Got to get this forward motion. I can't stress it enough. See there, I was a little stuck, so Shayna helped me right at the end. I'm plan A, she's plan B. Got to get that forward motion. All right, Shayna, let's change directions. That's it. Righto. I like to get them loping both ways with me doing it before I get. Help me out a little bit before I get too out of air. That's a boy. That's it. That's it. Don't whack them too hard when you first get on them. They might whack you about 40 feet in the air. Just spank them a little bit and just see how sensitive they're going to be. He's a little dull, so I can whack him a little harder. I don't want to have to, but right now I do. Right, a half a turn to the inside, Shayna. So now I'm going to start working on some turns. But I'm just going to let him trot now. Okay, I just want him to trot. Because I got to get some turns done, and I don't want to get him too out of air just too quick. Okay? He'll canter sometimes, but sometimes I just want him to trot. Right, now let's do some turns. So half a turn to the inside, lead his nose, there. Okay? Move those feet around. Notice that I'm constantly moving on him. Okay, half a turn to the inside, she steps out in front. Very similar to lunging stage 2, isn't it? That's why having a helper gives the colt confidence. Okay. One full turn to the inside. There, there, and then out. Let's make him canter now. Get after him, spank his butt. That's it. That's it, boy. That's it. Now 1.5 to the inside, 1.5. There's half. There's 1. Make him canter out. That's it. Get that takeoff, that energetic departure. One full turn to the inside. Shayna gets him there. Then she changes hands, and then we're good to go. That's it. Make this little thing lope out. Come on. Let those feet move. That's a boy. 1.5 to the inside. 1.5. There's half. There's 1. Lope out. There we go. Move those feet. Come on. That's it. Got to get those feet moving. Right, half a turn to the outside. Wait. Let him trot. Just let him trot. Now, I don't mind him turning into the fence as long as I initiate it. Okay, do a little roll back. Half a turn to the outside. Wait. There, let him trot out. That's a boy. Half a turn to the outside. Sit, sit, sit. Another half a turn to the outside. Sit and relax before you pull. Okay. That's it. One full turn to the outside. One full turn. There's half. There's a little spin right there. So you can get a little handle on them long before you even get out of the round pen. Get a little steering wheel on them. 1.5 to the outside, mate. There's half. There's 1. Look at that little spin. Not bad for a little Mustang. Okay. That's the start of a 360 spin. Okay. It all starts right here. 1.5 to the outside. Just wait. Get a little stuck. It's half. There's 1. And then let me out. There we go. That's it. Now I can kind of help myself a little bit here. Half a turn to the inside. And I can slap him on his neck just a little bit. Encourage him to turn. Half a turn to the inside. Shayna will step back. There. That's a boy. One full turn to the inside. That's it. Now I'll kind of slap him on that neck. One full turn to the outside. That's a boy. Okay, we'll just let him walk now. Shayna, he's done really good. Okay. I like to just let him walk the last minute or so and just let him really relax. There, I love, that's a nice problem. See how he kept checking with Shayna? Hey, do you want me to come in? You want me to come in? He's got that left ear on her, hasn't he? Now I'm going to slow him down by just doing a change of direction. That's a boy. So I got him walk, trotting and cantering. I got his feet moving out. We got some changes of direction. Got a little steering wheel on him. Pull on this back cinch. Move all over these horses. Wear them like a blanket. Okay? You can't be nervous on a colt, because if you are, you just get tight and they can feel that. Now turn him. If he trots off, I'll just turn him. I just get in his way. See here? Turn him, just get in his way. So Shayna did a lot of the work for me today, but tomorrow I'm going to do more of the work. And then the next day, I'm going to try to do all of the work, and she does very little, okay? And then from then on, I don't need her. So I kind of wean myself off the helper. But I tell you what, I've started colts a lot of different ways, and this is by far the very safest way of starting colts that I've ever seen in the world. This is the way Gordon McKinley does it, and this is the way I'm showing you here, okay? I cannot ride a bucking horse to save my life. So you know what I do? I do what Gordon said, is don't ever get them to buck. Don't ever make them so they want to buck, okay? A great horseman never has to go back and fix anything. He never lets it get started in the first place. Right, he's pretty relaxed here, Shayna. He feels nice and comfortable. So Shayna's going to get behind me and kind of help me get back to the center. And when I get to the center, I'm just going to flex him. And then wherever he ends up stopping, she'll kind of get out in front of him. There. And the last couple of minutes here, I just want to spend a little quality time just flexing him here. Okay, just letting him know that I can flex him. He's actually a little lighter here than what he was. A little heavy right there. There. So I like to give him 10 to 14 rides in this hackamore. See how he's a little stiff there? So don't be frightened to bump on that nose, but bump kind of out the side, like bump, bump, and then bring it around. You know, if they get really stuck, you can do this with your hand. Use your hand and slap them on the side of the face and help them bend that head around there. So he gave what I call a textbook ride. Nothing real bad, nothing real good, pretty typical out here. Okay? But if you just spend the last couple of minutes just slowly flexing them from side to side, it finishes off nice and relaxed. They flex better next time you get on. We're going to start getting control of these 5 body parts here. Bump back nose. That's it. But always start and finish in the center of the round pen. So in a little bit here, Shayna's going to help me get back towards the center more. Okay, and then I'm going to get off. That's it. Bump, bump, bump. See how he's a little stuck here? So I used my hand, plus Shayna flapped that bag a little bit to try to get him to look at her, but he's a little bit dull to that bag, which is a nice problem to have, but he wasn't too interested in it. That's it. Righto, Shayna, get behind me a little bit, mate. See if she can help me get back to the center. Never get off them near a fence, okay, or in a position you could get all jammed up. Now watch how I get off here. I'm going to turn him a little bit. Let's help. There we go. Hopefully he'll cooperate. Turn enough. Right about there. I'd like him to stop. Okay, watch how I get off here. First thing I do is take my right foot out of the stirrup. A lot of people go to get off a colt and that stirrup drops off their foot, hits the horse in the belly, and the horse takes off and starts bucking. Get their head bent around, grab some mane, and warn him that you're coming. Say, hey, I'm coming down here. What do you think about this? I don't want to surprise you now. And if he's handling that well, now I'm going to step off. Look where I step. Way out here, in front of that shoulder. Get away from the weapons there. Get away from those hind legs. And now I come back in and I immediately flex them 2 or 3 times. Okay. Flap that stirrup. Pull on the back cinch. Make sure he's nice and relaxed. Bring that front end across. He did great. Flex him here. So, everything went well, I thought, today with his ride. However, it's no real surprise that it went well because we spent 7 days preparing the horse for this day. Okay, so are we done with groundwork now that we've ridden him? Most certainly not. He's eventually going to do everything on the intermediate series and advanced series. Okay, it's fundamentals, intermediate, advanced, and professional. He knows most of everything on fundamentals now, but he still needs a lot of practice at it. But he's got the basic concept. So from now on, every day that I ride him, I'm probably going to spend 25 to 40 minutes on the ground with him, messing around on the ground, teaching him the exercises, improving it. And then I might ride him anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, probably not the first couple of days, but as it goes on, I will, yes. First couple of rides are relatively short because they run out of air pretty quick and it's kind of new for them and they can't just go around and around forever, okay? So we're going to show you his second ride tomorrow and then his third ride, and then we'll kind of show you periodically of different rides up to when he's ready for a snaffle bit. But he did really good, but it's no surprise because we did our homework. Remember, Gordon told me, every time you spit dirt out of your mouth and you get bucked off a colt, it's because you did a poor job of preparation. If your horse bucks you off, it's not his fault. You did a poor job of preparation. And that's hard to swallow, believe me. I got bucked off enough times that your pride takes a good old kick in the pants, okay? You have to swallow your pride on that deal. But if you get bucked off, your horse is telling you didn't do a good enough job preparing him. And Gordon is right. Every time I got bucked off a colt, you guarantee I did a little better job on the next one. I got bucked off, a little bit better job on the next one. Because getting bucked off doesn't feel real good, okay? And so that's where we are. So I'm going to go and unsaddle him now and put him away, and he'll just put him loose in a pen, and we'll get him back out tomorrow, mate. He did great.